Please pray with me. Gracious God, thanks for our kids. Thanks for the children that you have blessed us with. Thanks for the gifts that you give us, the talents. Thanks for the superpowers that you shower us with so that we can love you and love one another in ways that are truly astounding. And everybody said, amen. Well, good morning. So, today is my birthday. Yeah, it's actually not. It's not my birthday, but you thought it was. So for the purpose of this opening part of the sermon, we're going to pretend that it is my birthday. All right? So just pretend. Use your imagination. Today is Aran's birthday, and I'm gonna ask a friend of mine to come up here, and I totally didn't check with her beforehand. And so, friend Jill, would you join me right up here? So, okay, thank you. So I totally did not ask her to do this ahead of time, and so thank you for being a good sport. Just come on right up here. Yeah. So I promise this won't hurt. This won't be an embarrassing moment for you. All right. So and again, hi. And yet, yes, it is. So yeah. So wave to everyone out there. Yes, hello. This is Jill. My name is Aran. Okay, and today's my birthday.
Yay!
Yay! Right. So and so what do we do on birthdays? Right. Sometimes we sing to each other and stuff like that. And what else do people do on birthdays?
Here is a gift.
There wasn't anything there. Wait, hold on. Here, I got this for you so you could give it to me.
Yeah, right? Ta-da!
Thank you! Oh my gosh, this is so great. Oh, this is what I always wanted. So I already did a thing, right? After I receive a gift, I say, thank you, right? This is very appropriate. Is that the end of it? Is that the end of the transaction? It could be, right? Sometimes that's it. Oh, thank you. That's very good. But I might actually start to now think about why she got me a gift. Why did she do this? Right? So I mean, it's my birthday. Maybe, she felt like, well, I had to give him something, and stuff. So, or maybe I reminded her, like, it's my birthday, and stuff. But honestly, from the pulpit, right? So, honestly, if I think about it hard enough, the reason why do we give gifts to people? Because we love them, right? We care about them, and I know enough about my friend Jill to know that she loves me. So maybe more than me just saying, oh, thank you. When I get home, and after I've opened it, I could sit down and I could do something. What could I do? Thank you. And if I'm even so bold as to ask her permission, after I give her the thank you note, I could give her a hug. May I give you a hug? Thank you. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Okay, so now what just happened to our relationship? It got stronger, right? Even our proximity changed because I handed her something, I gave her a hug. The distance between us shrunk, right? Physically, but also just emotionally, spiritually, relationally, we're closer now. All right? So please, everyone, give Jill a hand. Thank you. All right? So no, that's for you. That's for you. That's an actual thank you note for you. So let's just recap what just took place, all right? On my birthday, Jill, my friend, gave me a gift, and it was that thing that I really wanted, so I said thank you. But if I start to think about it, I go, well, why did Jill give me a gift? And I start to realize that it wasn't just because she felt obligated, and hopefully it wasn't because I demanded it, right? Those are really poor reasons to give and receive gifts, right? Like, I deserve this. Or like, hey, come on, like it's sort of like we're duty bound to give someone a gift. Those aren't good reasons to give and receive gifts. So no, she gave me a gift because she cares about me. It's a love thing, right? And if I experience love, if I experience this care from one person to me, sometimes that sort of simple, oh, thank you, it might not do the trick entirely. So I show her my gratitude. I give her a thank you note. I give her a hug. And what happens? That distance shrinks. We are closer together. The gratitude of the receiver draws us closer to the giver. Does that make sense? Like, and this is important because we tend to believe sometimes that it's all about the getting and the receiving of, and that somehow that's the real main point, or that giving is the focus. But one doesn't make sense without the other, right? It's actually in that expressed thankfulness, that showing of gratitude, that draws the giver and the receiver closer together. Now think about it. If I hadn't said thank you when Jill had given me this gift, or I hadn't written her a note, or I hadn't given her a hug, what happens? Like, it's gonna get kind of awkward between us, right? Like, she'd be like, did he even appreciate the gift that I thought so hard about to bring to church, right? I mean, like, now there's like a weird, like, unsaid thing between us, and our relationship it's kind of a mess. But our relationship will stay in a healthy, wholesome place if there's gratefulness, if there's thankfulness, that sort of spirit going on, and we don't have this awkward distance going on. Well, with all of that said and done, let's look at this passage from Luke 17 today. Jesus and these 10 lepers. Now, we are going to talk about how Jesus healed the lepers. And then it's easy for us to make like connections about being thankful and expressing gratitude. But we have to make sure that we read all of the text. We can't ignore, as much as we might want to, we can't ignore where Jesus is. So take a look at your bulletin for me. Take a look at the gospel passage. Where is Jesus? Where is he? What does the text say? He's on his way to Jerusalem, and he's going through the region between Samaria and Galilee. My friends, this is a border town. Like, Jesus is about to do a teaching about gratitude, and gratitude, as we know, brings people together, draws people closer together. And it's a teaching about gratitude in a city where people on either side of the border, they're not all that fond of each other. Now, I know this might be hard for us to imagine, but you already imagined it was my birthday. So imagine, if you could, somewhere in the world where there's a border and people on either side of the border don't like each other. Just imagine what that might look like in the world. All right? Hard, I know. Galilee is a region that is largely populated by the Hebrews, people of the Jewish faith, and Samaria is filled with Samaritans, right? So now the Samaritans are, at least from the Hebrew point of view, these are the dirty half-breeds. Right? And we don't have time to go into the whole story, but suffice to say, when the Hebrew people were in exile at the hand of the Assyrian Empire, the Assyrians attempted to dilute the gene pool. Right? Hebrew women were forced to marry and have babies with Assyrian men. And those children, the offspring of that, became known as Samaritans. Like, they weren't allowed to be Hebrew because they weren't one of us. So in this region of the world where Jesus is, at that time, you literally can't find two groups of people who are more sort of diabolically at odds with each other. And it is here, in the midst of these, what are literally murky political waters, again, use your imagination, where Jesus takes his disciples to perform this rather memorable object lesson. Now, just as an aside, Jesus does this all the time. Jesus takes his followers up to Caesarea Philippi, where there's all this idol worship that takes place. And he talks about how he's the son of the living God, right in view of where all these dead idols are. Brilliant, right? He appears as his resurrected self right on the shores of a lake. Water represents death in the Bible. Death's got nothing on me. I'm going to go right up to it, right? Resurrection, I'm alive. The guy was a genius. So the location, in many cases, unlocks what Jesus is talking about, and it sort of opens up his teaching. So that's where we are, and that's who we are among. Let's look at what happens and see if we can figure out a little more about this context, right? Jesus is barely into this border town, and a group of people with leprosy, they're already hollering at him, "Hey, healer man, have mercy. Have mercy on us." Why are they calling out? Why are they shouting? Like, where are they in proximity to Jesus? Where are they? What does the text say? They're far away, aren't they? They are keeping their distance, as the text says. Why? Well, first of all, they're lepers, right? It's a deadly disease, and there were all sorts of rules about how close lepers could get to other people. But also, they're far off because, if we're honest, that's where society would like them to be. Like, we don't want to see the sick people. We'd rather not know what's happening with those people over there. Because what happens if we do? the distance between us shrinks if we learn other people's stories. And that's uncomfortable. I mean, I'll own that. I will straight up say it is uncomfortable for me to see other people suffer. I turn the channel. I keep swiping. I'd rather just not know. It's corny, but it's true. Denial ain't just a river in Egypt. That's a real thing. So, calling out from afar, these lepers ask to be healed. And Jesus tells them, go show yourselves to the priests. The priests were the people in the temple whose job, part of their job, was to determine people who had been declared unclean if they were now clean, right? And then they could eat with their families and go to synagogue, worship at temple, and all that stuff. So on their way, these lepers realize that they've been healed, which is a true miracle. Let's just call it what it is. And it's one of the more well-known miracles of Jesus' ministry. He doesn't touch them. He doesn't pray for them. He doesn't say, be healed. He just sends them on their way to go see the priests. And as they are walking, they realize what God has done for them. But one of them returns. One of them responds with gratitude. One of them is no longer keeping his distance. He draws near. His gratefulness, his gratitude brings him to a place of worship, of prayer, being thankful. It's like he recognizes the gifts that this Jewish Hebrew rabbi brings to the table. And of course, the one person who does it is the Samaritan. And it's like, hear this, unless you are a Samaritan, you don't get to read that part of the story and have warm, happy, fuzzy feelings. Because this is as provocative as Jesus gets. He even comes right on and says it. Was none of them found to return and give praise to God except this foreigner? Like, imagine, if you will, there's a person or a group of people out there and you believe that they are not good, not right, they are unholy, unworthy, they should be on the outside looking in, but now they are the ones that get to draw close to Jesus. And if they draw close to Jesus, guess what? That means they draw close to us. Well, now we have to come face to face with the reality that when we've been saying that we just want to keep our distance from those others, we're basically saying, go away, go back, go anywhere but here. And when we say that, we fail to recognize the gifts that they can bring to the table. In a border town, Jesus destroys the barriers that we've attempted to put up between us and them. It's as they say in Wakanda, in times of crisis, the wise build bridges and the foolish build barriers. But we haven't even gotten to the end of the passage yet. All right? All 10 lepers are made clean. All of them are restored to health, their families, their faith communities, etc. But look at the words that Jesus uses when this foreigner draws near with some gratitude. Look what he says. Get up and go on your way. Your faith has made you well. Now there's two things happening here. First, this phrase, get up, this is resurrection language. Like anyone who would have been like hearing this at the time would have going, whoa, wait. My ears are catching something here. Oh, is this that like one of those stories about like death leading to life kind of stories? Is this, Jesus, is this an example of what God's new heaven and new earth are going to look like someday? It's like the ideas of, drawing close to each other, showing gratitude, recognizing the gifts that others bring to the table. Is Jesus demonstrating that these are the things that bring about God's kingdom on earth as in heaven? The second thing about this phrase, your faith has made you well. Now this sounds and looks kind of strange, doesn't it? Like, weren't all the lepers made well? The text says they were made clean and they were healed. Well, why does this guy, the foreigner, get made well? Well, the word that Jesus is using here is the word for salvation. Yeah. The Greek word in the text is the word sozo. Everybody say sozo. Sozo. Yeah. This guy this guy just got saved. Like, that's literally what the text says. And what saves him? His faith. Now, we have to remember, though, what is the biblical understanding of salvation? Because the word saved gets used by lots of people, and it gets heard by lots of people, and it gets all sorts of different reaction, largely because it's misunderstood and misused. A phrase like, your faith has saved you, well, that might lead us to think that as long as you believe the right things, well, some glad morning, when this life is o'er, I'll fly away, right? But in the scriptures, salvation is not about like a disembodied evacuation kind of theology, or simply waiting around until you die, and that's when the good stuff kicks in an afterlife that takes place somewhere else. Salvation in the Bible is a reference to God rescuing people from slavery and into a relationship and a partnership with God in order to make the world as God wants it to be. You have been rescued and saved, and now you got a job to do. That is the whole picture of salvation. To be saved is a present and current condition. Salvation is something that we actually participate in the here and now. Now, just to scramble your eggs just a little bit more, Jesus, when he says your faith has made you well, he's speaking in the present tense. It's not a future thing. And the model that Jesus shows us and shows others how to participate in the salvation of the world, it's gratitude. It's being grateful, which is a whole lot better than what our culture teaches us, right? I can do whatever I want, I can say whatever I want, and I can do that to whomever I want. That doesn't draw us near to others at all, and it certainly doesn't draw us close to God. So here is my invitation to all of us. Up here in the front, over here by the piano, right down here, and there's also one right into the chapel here, there are some music stands with a bunch of note cards and pens. When you come forward for communion, as you draw close to God by eating and drinking the body and blood of Christ, on your way back to your seat, stop at one of these little stations, grab a card, grab a pen, and take a few moments as the music is playing, write a thank you note to someone. Doesn't have to be long. You don't have to write a paragraph. It can just be a couple sentences. Pick a specific person and write them a thank you note. The only caveat that I'll put on it is you don't get to write it to someone who's currently in the building. Do it for someone out there. And no, this is not a ploy for you to go out and invite someone to church and tell everybody how cool this sermon was. That's not what this is, all right? Simply practice gratitude. Being grateful to someone. Step into and participate in your salvation. Draw near to them. Draw near to God. And with their permission, when you hand them the thank you note, you could even give them a hug. Amen.